cut out.
And the next bit is really strange.
Cut that. That's your cut that out.
No, this has to be repeated again.
Stop saying it. Stop saying
He
it.
said it again.
Just stop saying it.
Guys, we have 40 minutes.
Yalla.
Desio. We'll do it again. 3, 2, 1.
So today we're doing an Easter special, and we're going to start off with the resurrection. Fact or fiction?
These disciples have sacrificed their lives for this lie. So if it was actually a lie,
Please say the lie. Please say the lie.
you don't lie to die.
Let's do it all together.
You don't lie to die. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode
Of
Come and See. This episode is by
Joanna and Anna.
Joanna. And in this episode, we'll be doing Genesis chapter 51, which covers the story of which we'll get into as we go through the episode. We're the new hosts, and
Should we start with the Bible verse?
start with the Bible verse.
Can we
but
get help?
Basically, for all the viewers out there, just know that we are the new hosts. We're taking over this podcast.
Me and
because
Ahab have
they
gone
were
far away.
okay, but there was room for improvement, and we
are the improvement.
we are the improvement.
Which verse did they usually do?
Colossians 3:16.
Do you mind?
Very, very quickly. It's right there.
Should we do it all together then? Might as well.
If you really want to be a part of it.
All right, all together.
Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly in all wisdom,
teaching and admonishing one another in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs,
Singing with grace in your hearts to the Lord. Did you guys learn that off by heart?
Yeah.
I was going to say, did you?
It's not my job. Welcome, Ahab and Mina, to the table.
So today we're doing an Easter special, and we're going to start off with the resurrection. Fact or fiction?
Fact. Should we go to the next topic?
You can't get out of it that easily.
You can't, yeah. Definitely not.
All right. So you guys want to ask whether the resurrection can be proven scientifically or outside from the Bible itself. So we can very quickly look at a few factors. I'm going to say a few, and Ahab will say the rest. Go.
I think the body was stolen. Well, I don't, but just others think that the body was stolen.
So the very first fact is, where is the body? The tomb was empty. And if the tomb is empty and we're saying that Jesus did not rise from the dead, then where is his body? As he have said, some of the disciples were accused at that time that they stole the body. Fine, fair enough. They might have stolen the body. Where is it? Because everyone at the time wanted to disprove the resurrection. So it would have been very easily for those who were doubting the resurrection to capture the disciples. You tell us where the body is, get it out. But no one was able to find the body at all. More so...
How did they steal the body
Exactly.
from under the Roman guards? How many guards were placed on the tomb? Look, they're too quiet. How many guards do you guys think were...
I actually don't know, but you know in cartoons they usually have 2 guards.
Was it 3?
I thought it was 2.
2.
Well, he's going to say something like 200 now. I don't know.
You guys are the ones answering the questions.
We didn't even ask a question.
We haven't even started our question section, so I don't know how this has happened.
From the cartoons I remember watching, there was 2 guards. Or maybe 3.
Mina?
We'll go for 3.
Go higher. Go higher.
5.
200.
So the thing is,
700 cards.
the thing is with the guards, it's their lives versus whatever that they are doing. So for example, if a Roman guard was trying to protect a body, if this body was taken away from him, he has to be killed. He's going to give his life for this body.
Okay, so how many were there?
A Roman guard for something like this would have been over 10 and maybe up to 16 guards.
Okay, so people could just argue that were a lot of people that went and fought these guards.
True.
So who are they? Who
The
went
12
to fight them?
disciples.
And
12
these are
disciples,
trained
right?
Roman guards.
Yeah, they got Jesus on their
And
side.
if they didn't guard this properly, then they would have been killed.
So the trained Roman soldiers versus some fishermen, who would win?
Jesus was on their side.
I mean, even then, though, there was a big stone.
And there was a big
Yeah.
stone. So this is the very first fact. Where is the body?
Could they have taken the body out, just say by some miracle they got through the guards, moved the stone, body's out, and burned it? Could that have been a possibility?
It could have been a possibility, which will bring us to point number 2.
Fine.
Point number 2 is these disciples have sacrificed their lives for this lie. So if it was actually a lie,
Please say the line. Please say the line. It's your favorite thing to
you
say.
don't lie to die.
let's do it all together. You
don't
lie to die.
No one can lie to die.
Isn't it,
doesn't
die
make
for a
sense.
lie?
Yeah, you don't die,
Die for a lie. Not lie to a die. Wait, what?
You
Don't die for a lie.
And you don't
Wait, the
die
first thing
for
you
a
said
lie.
makes
You don't
sense.
lie
You
to
don't lie
die.
to die. You don't die for a
Okay,
lie.
sorry, I don't know
It's
why the
exactly
first
the
way
same.
didn't make sense to me.
I guess so, but loads of people from loads of religions, one might argue, die for lies every single day.
Yeah, but they
That's
don't
the
know it to
difference.
be a lie, though.
That's the difference. They understand this as it is. Whether it is fact or not, they understand it as this is their fact. For the disciples, the issue is they had to have invented the lie that Jesus rose from the dead. So when it comes to gunpoint, now they will tell the truth because they would have been the ones to have invented the lie.
So what you're saying is they either saw Jesus resurrect or didn't see Jesus resurrect, for which they know for certain which one is true and which one's lie. But you're saying that other people die over things that they believe to be true that they can never prove, but it's all based on faith. Whereas in this circumstance, it is black and white, it's true or false.
Exactly, because they would be the ones to have invented the lie. So when it comes to point where they're going to die, they will reveal the truth because they wouldn't put themselves to death for a lie.
But did all of those disciples, were they all witnesses?
Mina, how many people did our Lord appear in front of? Surely it could have been a mass hallucination. What are we talking about?
So that will bring us to the third point, the eyewitnesses. How many eyewitnesses did we have?
That was my question.
Huh? How
I had
many?
a number, but I
Tell
don't-
us.
I don't know, but I thought it was four.
Of his resurrection?
Yes.
Like after, of
Hundreds.
his resurrection, I thought it meant after.
Or
100.
after. We can come to Joanna for after.
No, I thought
So, first of all, we have the 4 gospel writers, right? They have written their accounts of the story.
And are they all eyewitnesses?
They are
Yes.
all eyewitnesses.
were they?
Yeah,
Yes.
they were all around at the time and all eyewitnesses.
What about their accounts of things they weren't there for?
Yeah, that's what I was talking
Like
about.
Jesus' birth.
Oh, yeah, no, we're talking about the resurrection. And
Okay, fine.
the disciples saw him for 40 days after his resurrection. Sometimes he would appear to them in a closed room. Sometimes he would appear to some of the disciples on the way to Emmaus as they were journeying away. And in one particular event, Mina, how many did he appear in front of?
500 people at a time. This is written in the epistle of St. Paul to the Corinthians, first epistle, chapter 15.
Verse 6.
He said he appeared to 500 brethren at once. Many of them
Still here.
are still here. Meaning what? Meaning, if I'm telling you some fibs, if I'm lying myself, go ask these people. They are still alive. Many of them are still here. If you think that Jesus actually didn't rise from the dead, go speak with these people who are still alive, who have seen him themselves, and they will tell you the truth.
But did they really touch him? Did they feel him? Did they make sure that it was him?
Yes, he ate with them. He sat down with them. He asked Thomas to touch him.
Listen, you know when big groups of people gather,
Yes.
they can be having a party, they could be doing something.
It's true, though, it could be mass hallucination.
They could have been doing some
Joanna's
things and
thinking
they're
mass
just...
hallucinogenic.
There are people, I'm sorry.
You just never know.
There are people in this world that believe things that we would think is ridiculous that they believe that, and there's masses of them. It's not just one or two. How do you know that they haven't just made this up?
We don't know of any hallucinogenic that would give everybody the same vision, the same dream, the same idea, and for them to all come out having puffed the same smoke and believed in the same thing doesn't exist.
So mass hallucination would not work with this. Like, as Ihab was explaining, like every one of them will have a different hallucination, but it can't be that they are all of them seeing something that is not true.
Maybe someone's dressed like Jesus.
So what?
And someone that was touched, and Thomas went up and he was asked to put your finger in my hand.
That's true.
Put
The
your
person would
hand
have to
in my side.
impose. Do you think that's why Jesus had all the stuff still?
With our Lord, he invited Thomas. He said, Thomas, come, put your hand in my wound. Touch the place of the nails in my hands. And put your whole hand into my side. How big of a gash is that? And you're telling me someone could have impersonated?
Can't have been dressed up.
It can't be. Like, I don't know how anyone could think it was a hallucination, to be fair.
No.
Which will bring us to the fourth point. So first, where is the body? 2, anyone remember?
2,
We don't
lie for a die.
We don't die for a lie.
we don't die for a lie.
I'm going to get that literally imprinted on me.
3 is the eyewitness accounts. 4 is going to be the change of lives. People who have encountered Jesus throughout centuries have believed and their lives have been changed. And the very clear example is a specific St. Paul himself, who was killing Christians, believing that they are wrong. And all of a sudden he had an encounter, a real encounter with Jesus. And since that encounter, he became the great St. Paul.
In fact, Joanna, sorry, Anna.
No, go.
Joanna touched on another one, which is the false witness, that it could have been mistaken identity or someone dressed up, and the mass hallucination. So we're actually at 6 at this point. All of those we've discounted.
We need a number at the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
Point count.
There's going to be a number here on this amazing screen.
Making their
Make it
life
happen.
harder.
Editors. That's a good point, because lots and lots of people discount Paul as a witness. 1, he was a latecomer. 2, many would argue that he didn't actually meet Jesus.
He did meet Jesus on the road to Damascus.
And yes, he was with other people. So I guess they could also...
Where was Paul living?
In,
Paul was living in Jerusalem, right in the midst of everything that was going on. So much so that he had a vendetta. And after the crucifixion of our Lord Jesus Christ, in fact, he could have been inciting the Pharisees to this whole plan. We don't know. But he had a vendetta to get rid of Stephen, the deacon that was beginning to spread Christianity. And when that vendetta came about and he fulfilled it, he asked, everyone was giving the shirt and coat to Paul to hold while they picked up stones to stone Stephen. He was right there. He was in the midst of everything that was happening.
You could say, though, that he just felt bad, just from human ethics, nothing to do with Christianity. What makes Paul a credible witness?
Because Paul isn't the only witness, as we said.
What do you mean, felt bad? Felt bad for what?
Like, imagine you persecute a type of people for so long, and then you come to a realization you're actually a racist or you're actually just bad. You might then learn to love those people and then sympathize with them and become one of them. I'm not saying I believe that, but a lot of people, for some reason, discount Paul, and it makes you think, as a Christian, should we be?
Makes me think, Paul the other one. That doesn't make sense.
That was bad.
That was bad.
That was low.
I'm not even fazed by these
You didn't
jokes
understand
anymore.
it.
No.
It's 'cause you didn't actually
What did he say?
understand it.
Paul the other one? Put like did he say the word Paul? Like Paul?
Yeah. All right. Last proof.
Edit that out.
You haven't explained.
Does
can you
explain
explain
what?
it? I don't-
Paul.
What do you
Paul that
mean?
out.
Is he a credible witness?
I'm trying to understand the joke.
Pull this out.
Paul the other one is an expression, and
Is it like from 1980s? I don't understand.
Guys, this is serious.
The editors are going to kill us for this episode.
They're going to keep it in, I know they are.
Don't we only have like 5 minutes left?
Yes, Paul, of course, was a credible witness because he has encountered Christ in person. And we see in the testimony of Paul himself is that he said that he have seen Christ multiple times. And Jesus has appeared to him on the road to Damascus when he was going there to persecute the Christians, and his life turned upside down. He believed, he was baptized, he received the Holy Spirit, he became an apostle himself to go to preach the word of the gospel. So how can someone's life turn upside down from hating Christians to becoming an evangelist to Christianity unless he felt that this is true?
It was such a big transformation that none of the disciples believed it. And they were so scared wherever Paul went that they couldn't believe that he changed. It took a huge amount of trust. In fact, Barnabas reached out and befriended Paul in faith, and that was the person that brought Paul into the disciples to get to know them and to reach out their hand of friendship, as it were. If it wasn't for Barnabas, it wouldn't have happened, because it was so unbelievable that someone that violent, who had caused a lot of death and trouble for the people of the way, that he would have changed. Almost impossible for them to believe it.
Well, Paul's life wasn't easy either. So if he was changed and God wanted to transform his life, why did his life become so difficult?
Exactly. So that will say that at the end of his life, St. Paul himself was martyred. So why would he do that? Returning to point number 2.
Why would he?
Die for a lie.
You don't die for a lie.
I want that plastered on there as well.
Sure. That will bring us to the last point, which is the history itself. The history itself is showing that this person, Jesus, was there. His life is there, documented in history. Rather than just from the eyewitnesses, but in history we can look at different sources outside of the Bible showing that there was a leader or a religious figure at the time called Jesus, and he was crucified at the time. Yes, they might not talk about his resurrection as much, but the figure of Jesus Christ is historical. He's not someone that we invented. So the eyewitness testimony throughout Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, everything that they have said, if we look at the tests of the eyewitness tests, anything that you take to court these days to look at eyewitnesses and see if their accounts are correct or not, they will also be proven to be correct eyewitnesses.
One of the things that's said is that the story of the birth, life, death, resurrection of Jesus is just a myth recounted like Osiris. What do we all think of that? So, for example, Osiris being Egyptian, his story is mythical. He was an Egyptian mythological figure. The idea that, so he returned in the myth, he didn't return to earthly life, but became the ruler of the underworld. It doesn't sound like Jesus in that sense at all. His body was never restored, never came back to life on earth. Another one is Dionysius, the Greek in Greek mythology. He was the Greek god of wine and dancing. And seriously, are you going to say that his death and rebirth, it was just symbolic? He didn't actually die and come back. And he's a mythological figure that represents wine and dancing and parties. It reflects his death and coming back is about the cycle of the vines and of harvest, that the vines are put to death, plucked, you make wine out of them, and then it repeats itself again. It's nothing to do with Christ.
And there aren't like people that say that they saw and met someone who resurrected, whereas with Jesus it's something people said they saw that actually happened.
But a lot of people would argue that Christ never died in the first place. Like they never actually managed to kill him.
Fantastic.
Isn't that something that a lot of people argue?
So that's another question. So those who say that he was being replaced or something, then we tend to ask how...
Or he never got the point. At the point of a spear in his side?
Exactly.
Seriously?
People argue that.
Or that he didn't actually die.
Yeah,
like
they
he was
tried
put in the
to, but
tomb,
they never actually
but he
did
wasn't
it.
dead at that point.
He got the spear in his side. He was bleeding out.
Yeah.
So how expert were the Romans at killing people?
Very expert. Extreme expert.
Extreme-
Expert.
Yes, and if they didn't, they would be killed themselves. If you failed to kill this prisoner, you would die in their stead. So really, can we trust the Romans did a good job of not only inventing one of the most gruesome, painful deaths possible, but making sure that the person on the cross actually dies. They break their knees, for goodness sake, so that they die of suffocation if they haven't died already.
Well, Jesus' bones were not broken.
No, because he'd already died, because he'd had a spear in his side and bled out that way. But what about Jonah saying
and
that...
if we say that he suffered a lot but actually didn't die, then how could he, after the resurrection, be healed all of a sudden? Like the stripes at his back, the nails in his fingers, the pierce in his side, all of these things, like we get a little bit of something on our finger. I can't, I'm tired, my finger is hurt. All of these things that Jesus went through, how could he have just walked around his disciples very healed like that?
Also being locked in a tomb for 3 days in that state with no infection, like you'd assume he'd come out at least worse off if in this world that could have been possible.
And the whipping is 39 whips and 39 gruesome whippings.
And these were Romans as well, so they tend to go more than the 39, and they tend to be, as Ihab was explaining, very, very brutal.
That's another point, I think, on the one about myths, is there were so many prophecies about Jesus' death, like mention of crucifixion at a time crucifixion hadn't even been invented.
So you're mentioning Psalm 22?
Yeah.
So it starts, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus mentions the words there of the psalm because, like in our church, the beginning of the psalm is how you remember the whole psalm, and it talks about the crucifixion. As you say, Anna, even the describing crucifixion, nails are put into my sides, I can count all my bones. All the act of crucifixion is described in Psalm 22, which Jesus mentions on the cross to remind the people, this is what I'm going through now.
Yeah.
And finally, if we again return back to the idea that he has been replaced or someone else replaced him, again, who is that person? When did it happen? Because Jesus was captured on Thursday evening in the Garden of Gethsemane. All the way he has been under guard up until he's been taken to the cross, crucified. So again, the guards, the Roman guards who are guarding him, again, it's his life or their lives. So when
the Jews that wanted him killed.
The Jews wanted him killed.
The leaders of the Jews that wanted him killed, I don't mean all the Jews, but they were at the cross, they were there to mock him, to say, if you are the Son of God, come down from here.
And who would be that person? It wouldn't be fair for God to send someone else instead of Jesus. Like, why would this person be crucified instead of Jesus? And finally, again, let's say that he was replaced. Where is the body of that person?
Yeah.
So, did he rise from the dead as well? Or what has happened to his body? Because we return back to the very first point. We still have an empty tomb. So the empty tomb is because Jesus rose from the dead. It's not because someone else died on his behalf, and then where is the body of this someone else?
I guess on that, why would God send someone else to die?
Exactly.
That would imply that God's plan went wrong and he had to intervene really quickly and swap the bodies, but how could God's plan go wrong? He knows everything.
I mean, just speaking about all of this, it's obviously triggering the most important, not important, but in my opinion, what most people listening would be thinking. And let me know if you guys want to keep this in, but if you could give one sentence, if you can narrow it down into one sentence, Mina and Aheb, why did God come and die on the cross for us and resurrect?
In one sentence?
In one sentence.
Mina.
What was the point?
You can come to spec and we can go
come on. If you can do it in one sentence.
And what it is to you. Don't give a textbook answer. Give genuinely.
What it is to me, my sins, my own sins, would take me to die. That's 100% guaranteed. And there was no way for me to get out of it because this is a disconnection from God. And God didn't want this for any of us at all. God created us to live with Him eternally. So when we sinned, when I sin, it's a disconnection from God. And that disconnection means that I have to die. So Jesus, very simply, instead of me, these disciples have sacrificed their lives for this lie. So if it was actually a lie,
Please say the lie. Please say the lie. It's your
because
favorite thing to
you
say.
don't lie to die.
Let's do it
So
all
I'm
together.
going to
You
Don't lie to die.
So death will no longer take hold of you, but instead it will be a transition for you from where we are now to where we're going to be. It's a long sentence.
No?
So we mentioned, what I'll add to that is, we mentioned a few chapters back in Genesis, the Abrahamic covenant. Do you guys know how tribal leaders make pacts with each other? Do you know what a blood pact?
Didn't they cut?
Yeah, they cut either their arm or their hands, and they shake hands, and they merge each other's blood, but they also
and I
exchange.
don't even get any thoughts.
They also exchange each other's weapons, and they say, if you ever need my strength, my tribe to defend you, we will come and defend you. And if you ever need my protection, here is my coat. And they exchange coats, and what we see in the Abrahamic covenant is that God entered into a covenant agreement with Abraham. Abraham is supposed to be with God, but it's supposed to be a covenant of equals. And God is saying, I will protect you and your generations forever. And Abraham will say, I will follow you forever. But Abraham is a man and God is God. So in that account in Genesis, Abraham goes to sleep, is put to sleep by God. And one appears that is like a blazing fire, a figure in the blazing fire that walks with God, does the pact agreement. And this is what God has said. Abraham, you can't make this agreement with me. I will send my son, fully man, fully God, and he will make the agreement on behalf of all mankind. And from that moment on, I will defend. When I look at Ahab's sin, when I look at Mina's sin, I will see that my son died for them, and I will forever forgive them, because I'm the one that entered and took flesh, i.e. his son, and died for them.
So nice.
This is the Abrahamic covenant.
Can we break it down a bit more though? So question 1, why is sin a disconnection from God?
If God is all perfect, do we believe in an all perfect God?
Yeah.
All holy? Can he just click his fingers and say it doesn't matter that I'm all holy, all perfect? Any sin goes. Can he do that?
I mean, he can, but would he?
But if he did, then it would go against his all holiness and all purity. And if he did, it will also go against his being a just God. Then justice and fairness wouldn't have any sense. He's ultimately all fair, all holy, all just. And that would mean that he can't just click his fingers and say, okay, I'll forgive you. It goes either against his justice or his holiness.
I mean, I speak a lot of people when it comes to sin and forgiveness. Some people don't feel like people that have committed heinous crimes deserve forgiveness. Why do people deserve forgiveness?
We don't deserve forgiveness. Forgiveness is not something that we do deserve. It's actually out of the goodness and love of God's heart that He is willing to die on our behalf. So we did not deserve to be forgiven. We all deserve, ultimately, to go to hell. That's what we actually deserve. But it's out of God's goodness, God's heart, God's love, is that He decided to forgive us. And Him forgiving us is act of love from God. And the way to fulfill, as Ihab was explaining, the full justice and the full love is that there has to be sacrifice. He is the one to die instead of us. So when He died on that cross, He died on behalf of all of humanity.
So did God die?
I was just going to ask.
The viewers want to know, did God die?
The incarnate Word of God who took flesh died on the cross by virtue of His humanity. But if you are saying that when we die, for example, Anna, you asked, when you die, what happens to your soul and spirit? Does it die?
No.
No. And the same with Christ. His human soul, his human spirit, with his divine divinity, never died.
He's alive.
His flesh that he took from us as humans died, yes.
I have a question, but you can crop this out, but I need to know right now.
Wait, died?
Yes.
As in,
His flesh died.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but where is it?
No, and rose from the
And
dead.
rose.
There we go. Okay. I was just like, hang on a minute.
Don't do this.
Oh,
I was like, what
dear.
do you mean?
You need to watch this episode.
No, as
Rose
in, like,
from the
it
dead.
wasn't clear. Like, I know what he's talking
Well
about,
done.
but
Yep.
I was just like, what do you mean?
I have a question. People that don't accept Christ, or people that will bear the weight of their sin on themselves because they don't accept what happens, do they die?
Say that again, sorry?
You know, we say the wage of sin is death. So we're saying that Jesus provided an out for us to not have to bear that consequence because he died on our behalf. So I'm saying if you don't bear that consequence, so if you don't accept Jesus, therefore you have to bear the consequence. Surely they have physical death, but they also live forever, but in hell.
Yes.
So they don't die. So
And we
the wage of
explained
sin is not death.
that imagine them meeting Christ and feeling at the end of the last days in judgment that he was saying, I love you. I gave my life for you. Here are the wounds that I bled for you. And don't you remember I tried to get to know you and for you to know me, and for what would they feel?
I imagine further rejection.
That he rejected them?
No. That they would just be so shameful, they'd probably still reject him.
And that shame and that guilt, and they'd suddenly realize, actually, there's no escaping it. He loved me. All my life, he's been seeking me, and I'm the one that turned away from him, and I'm the one that didn't want him in my life. And that shame and guilt, what would it cause them to do? Can it cause them to grow closer to him?
Probably not.
And so that's what the church fathers have said. Some of them say that they shun away, that the light of Christ, the love of Christ becomes so hurtful for them that they say, Lord, take me somewhere where I wouldn't feel your presence, where I won't remember as much that you have done for me all these things in my life. Put me somewhere away from your presence. Hide me somewhere that doesn't have your presence, because I can't bear to be in your presence. Every time I think of you and remember what you've done, it's agony for me.
Is that death?
We're immortal. We're made to be immortal. And his mercy is to put us in a place where we don't feel his presence. Not us, but those that haven't accepted him. And that's hell. A place that doesn't have as much of God's presence.
Yeah, I get it. So when we say the wage of sin is death, it doesn't mean you're going to die right now on the spot because of
Death
your
is
sin.
ultimate separation.
It's ultimate separation, and it's not ceasing to exist.
No.
It's
So I will ask you a question.
we're asking the question.
No, it's our
I
turn
think,
to ask you a
just
question.
Cut the cat out.
So-
We're done, I think.
Why do we still die if Jesus rose from the dead?
Physical death.
Yeah? I thought he rose from the dead
Because of original
to
sin.
say that, khalas, you're no longer going to die.
Even original sin. Joanna said because of original sin. No, in baptism, that's wiped away.
We're mortal. We're human.
Oh, you have just said we're created immortal.
We are, because he is the source of life. That we, on our own, obviously are not immortal, but us being connected with he who is immortal, his eternity, is what gives us the source to live forever. But not, that doesn't mean on earth here, that means to live somewhere that is outside of time.
Joanna?
Do I win?
Yeah,
One
just
nil.
give it to Anna, because
1-0.
you've lost me there.
You don't know. Just say you don't know.
I don't know. I just
You're
know I'm going to
absolutely
die.
correct, Joanna.
Next question is for Joanna.
So,
Nah.
to add to that, the only last thing I would like to add is that these bodies will not be able to inherit eternal life.
Yeah.
So these bodies have to die because these bodies have sinned, have experienced sin. So we are going to receive new bodies in the second resurrection.
Are we going to look better?
Yeah, I'm done with this one.
Oh, dear Lord.
You
Yes.
invited us to this podcast.
Yes, much better. Glorified bodies.
I want to look like Anna.
I don't want to look like you. You can be twins.
So with
We'll
that,
both be Joanna
Anna, I
in
know.
the next one.
Yeah, anyway.
Sorry. Go on.
I think
You
with
two
that
should
we can
swap.
say
You should.
Mina doesn't want his hairline.
You can.
What did you say? Smooth as in the groove.
I love your hair. Is this mic on? Imagine if you didn't capture any of that gold content. That'd be a shame.
I think with that we can say to everyone, Happy Easter, Happy
Easter.
Feast of the Resurrection to everyone. Thank you very much, Anna and Joe.
Thank you. Mina
Christ
and
is
Hem.
Christ is risen.
Truly he is risen.
And if you liked the episode, then make sure you like, subscribe.
I knew she wouldn't be able to say it.
I can't say it.
Like and subscribe.
And
Maybe
share.
comments and share.
comment.
Yeah.
We
We
get
always
hateful
respond to
Can
comments.
we get actual, genuine comments?
Not hateful.
Thank you,
questions.
everyone.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank
guys.
you.
Tune in for the next
Bye.
one.